Hello, friends, and good evening. Welcome back to Edwin's ASMR Corner. I hope you enjoyed last week's video. This week, I have something truly exciting to share with y'all. My friend Julie has written a book, and this week we'll be reading excerpts from her book, Coyote Gratitude. But first, a little context on this new work. In 2019, Julie was staring at what looked like the rest of her life. So she threw her life into her car and just started driving. Coyote Gratitude is a non-fiction coming-of-age story from her road trip adventure for anyone at a crossroads. I'm beyond excited to share this with y'all. I'll be including all of Julie's links down below, and while you're down there, why not just like, comment, maybe subscribe if you haven't already. Thank you so much. It really helps out the video. And as you're ready, please feel free to get comfy, to get cozy, and as you're ready, we'll begin with the introduction. Note to self and others. Hey there. Figured I'd welcome you to this moment, mostly because you're new to it, like me. Know you're among fellow travelers, and no matter which way you choose to go, there's a piece of us with you. This is from the first night. A confession. I left Los Angeles in the dark at 6 a.m, which felt like a metaphor to me somehow. And I left the Grand Canyon in the dark, which felt less like a metaphor and more like a ripe lesson directly in line with the mission of this trip. First, let me just say, the canyon is graceful, powerful, and peaceful as a very old tree, as one might imagine a just God. I was so grateful to come upon my first view of it in solitude. I got to watch the eagles, there were 3 of them, traverse the canyon and twist like dust in the air. I made myself a tuna and hummus wrap right there, and it was delicious. I fully basked in the majesty of the world wonder. And after a few minutes, I moved along for other views, equally, if not more beautiful, and the sunset. My plan had been to stay the night, maybe 2, at a little site in the Mather campground. Perhaps tomorrow I'd do a bigger hike. But the sun sank deeper. I wound up a mile off the trail in pitch darkness with a headlamp. I finally made my way back to my tent and fell asleep at 8 p.m., snug and proud. But at midnight, I woke up from a panic dream to wet feet. I had sweat through my socks. I knew I wasn't going to be able to get back to sleep, and it would only get colder. I love camping, but it's always been a social affair. Family, friends. This was my first time setting up a tent alone, sleeping in the elements alone, nervously wondering if my fuel would freeze or my toes would freeze or my gear would get wet. Alone. By the time I was second-guessing my choice to drive to a motel in Flagstaff, my tent was already down. I drove an hour and a half to a well-rated inn that would let me crash for cheap. It had a bed, a shower, and heat. I checked in at 4 a.m, slept until 7:30, and checked out at 10. It felt right, and I felt good doing it. In fact, I loved the black night drive. The softness of the trees I could only see with my high beams on. I loved being the only person on the road for miles. I loved saying hello out loud to the bunnies and deer and even one elk who crossed the road. And I loved how still Flagstaff was when I checked in. After a bath, I wrapped one towel around my hair, one around my body, and one around my neck. I slept like a cloud for 3.5 hours. I was going to keep this snafu private. I wanted the narrative of the first night of my journey to be nearly storybook. But I admit, my magical stay at the Grand Canyon didn't go as planned, and a lot of this trip isn't going to go as planned. I'm glad. A hug. This is just to say, you have the right to feel how you feel. Even if it's not logical, even if it's not right, even if it's a little selfish. You have the right to feel how you feel. And even if you know you should be happy, or know other people have it worse than you, or even if you know whatever you're going through will pass, it's all right. You deserve to scream into the void and cry watching a TV show you'd be embarrassed to tell your coworkers about. You have that right. I'm sorry about whatever it is you're handling right now. I know you know it will pass. But it's still a shitty place to be. I'm sending you good vibes. And here finally is an irreverent haiku dedicated to someone who hit on her at a coffee shop in Annapolis, Maryland. Nick, your sad, sad dick doesn't excuse you, you prick. Go home to your wife. And that, my friends, was a couple excerpts from my friend Julie's book, Coyote Gratitude. As I mentioned before, I'll include all her links down below, one of which is a link to her Seed and Spark. She has just a couple days left, and she's already 100% funded. But if you have a couple bucks to spare, and you feel like supporting her further, know that your contribution will help her pay for better production and marketing for her book. So it will still help. And with that, I hope you enjoyed. Have a lovely evening. Sleep well and sweet dreams.